My landlord asked me to read to her every night. Just poems and sketches, she said. Her voice was lonely. I was 25, she was 43. We'd sit on the porch under the grapevines, and I'd read while she listened. 3 months later, I was in her bed reading poetry against her skin while her husband was on a business trip. He came home early, found my sketch of her naked on the nightstand, found me hiding in the spare bedroom. I destroyed their 20-year marriage for nightly poetry readings. Welcome to Ryan's Revelations, where we bring you true stories of affairs, forbidden love, and the destruction that follows when you cross lines you can't uncross. What you about to hear is the confession of a 25-year-old architecture graduate who rented a room from a married woman and destroyed her marriage. A woman who seemed lonely, a woman who listened, a woman who forgot to mention her husband existed until he walked through the door. This is a story about how emotional intimacy becomes physical betrayal, how tenant and landlord became something far more complicated, and how poetry readings turned into adultery. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We post true betrayal stories 3 times a week. And if this hits too close to home, drop a comment. This story gets intimate, complicated, real. Let's begin. My name is Josh. I'm 25, fresh out of University of Washington with an architecture degree. Seattle's tough. Rainy, expensive, indifferent to dreamers like me. I'd been crashing in dorms after graduation, living off instant noodles and freelance gigs, sketching floor plans for startups. I needed something cheap and quiet. After days of scrolling overpriced listings, I saw a handwritten flyer taped to a laundromat window. Room for rent, 2nd floor, private, utilities included. Quiet tenant wanted. Must respect privacy. Contact Marlene. No phone number, just an email. It felt suspicious, but I was desperate. I emailed. She replied within an hour. Come by tomorrow, 6 p.m. I don't promise anything. I choose my tenants carefully. The tone was formal, almost cold. I pictured a stern older woman with cats and house rules. The address was in a quiet suburb outside Seattle. Old trees, houses that had seen decades. It felt like another world from the city. I pulled up in my beat-up Honda. The house was 2 stories, wood-sided, with a sagging porch and grapevines climbing one side. A single light glowed from the front window. The door opened, and there she was. Not the stern grandma I'd imagined. Marlene was 43, but could have passed for younger. Brown hair in a loose bun, strands escaping. She wore a simple white button-up, sleeves rolled, dark linen pants. Her feet were bare. She had quiet confidence, like the house belonged to her in a way that went beyond ownership. Her brown eyes sized me up, not unkindly, but with sharpness. You're Josh? Her voice was low, steady, with warmth held back. Yeah, hear about the room. Come see it. Don't get your hopes up. I'm picky. The house smelled of cedar and rain. Books stacked on tables, a half-finished sketch on the coffee table, tea steaming on the counter. She led me upstairs. The room was small but perfect. Single bed with a quilt, desk by a window overlooking the backyard, shelf with dusty novels. The view was all green grapevines and a small garden. It's quiet, she said. That's what I needed to stay. No parties, no loud music, no revolving door of guests. I live alone, and I like it that way. I nodded. Sounds like my kind of place. She tilted her head, eyes lingering on me longer than felt casual. We'll see, it's $800 a month, utilities included. The way she said it wasn't flirty exactly, but there was something in her pause. The way her gaze held mine, that made my pulse kick up. I'm serious, I said. I think I'm exactly who you're looking for. The corner of her mouth twitched. 1-month trial. Move in tomorrow. I moved in the next day. The room felt even better in daylight. I unpacked, set up my laptop, tried to shake the feeling I was stepping into someone else's story. Marlene was downstairs making coffee when I finished. White button-up, dark jeans, barefoot. Her hair tied in that loose bun. Settled? She asked. Yeah, thanks for this. Don't thank me yet. Let's see if you can handle the quiet. The first week was routine. I'd work on freelance designs at my desk. Marlene was a ghost in her own house there, but not intrusive. I'd catch glimpses of her in the mornings watering the garden, evenings on the porch with a book, jazz playing softly. Our interactions were brief, a nod in the hallway. Good morning over coffee, a quick wave. But every time I noticed her a little more. The way her fingers curled around her mug. Faint lines at the corners of her eyes when she smiled. The way she moved like she belonged to the house. There was a quiet beauty to her. Not loud or showy, but undeniable. I told myself I was just observing. But deep down, I knew I was crossing a line I shouldn't. 2 weeks in, she caught me sketching on the porch. I was drawing the grapevines, the way light filtered through the leaves. "You're good at that," she said, appearing in the doorway. "Just practicing." She sat beside me, closer than I expected. "Can I see?" I handed her the sketchbook. She studied it quietly. "You see things differently," she said. "Most people look at vines and see clutter. You see structure. That's architecture training. It's more than that." Her eyes met mine. "You see beauty in things other people ignore." The comment felt heavier than it should have. Like she wasn't just talking about grapevines. That night she asked if I'd read to her. "I don't sleep well," she explained. "Words help, if you don't mind." "What do you want me to read?" "Anything. Poetry, your sketches. Just something real." So I started reading to her every night. We'd sit on the porch, jazz playing low, and I'd read poems or descriptions of buildings I wanted to design. She'd listen with her eyes closed, a small smile on her face. It became our ritual. Every evening, after her day of gardening and whatever else she did, we'd sit together. Sometimes we'd talk afterward. Sometimes we'd just sit in silence. One night, a month in, it was raining hard. The power went out. She lit candles in the kitchen. "No reading tonight?" I asked. She shook her head. "Just sit with me for a minute." We sat in silence, the storm filling the space. Candlelight danced across her face. "You okay?" I asked softly. She didn't answer right away. Her fingers traced the rim of her mug. "Have you ever found a place you're afraid to stay in?" She asked finally. "Not because it's bad, but because you're scared you'll never want to leave?" Her voice was steady, but there was a tremor underneath. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I think I'm living in that place right now." She looked at me, really looked. Her eyes were wide and glassy in the candlelight. "I'm scared too," she said softly. "Scared you'll leave like everyone else. Scared this house will go back to being just walls." I reached out, my hand brushing hers on the counter. She didn't pull away. Her fingers were warm, trembling slightly. I curled mine around them. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "Not yet," she squeezed my hand. "Don't read tonight. Just stay here." We sat there, the candle flickering, the storm outside. The space between us was warm, alive, and possibly close. It wasn't a kiss, wasn't an embrace, but it was something deeper. That's when I should have wondered why a 43-year-old woman lived alone in a big house. Why she was so lonely. Why she needed someone to read to her every night. I should have asked if there was anyone else. But I didn't. The days after were different. Nothing had changed on the surface, but there was a charge in the air. A quiet intensity in the way she listened when I read. Her gaze would linger. Her fingers would brush mine when she handed me tea. I'd catch her watching me from the garden. The house felt fuller, alive. Then, 6 weeks in, it happened. We were on the porch. I just finished reading a poem about a house with open windows. Set the book down. She reached over, her hand on my arm. "Josh," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something." My heart was pounding. "What? I haven't felt like this in years." "You make this house feel alive. You make me feel seen." "I feel the same way." She leaned closer, her breath warm. "I know this is wrong. I know all the reasons why. But I can't." I kissed her. She kissed back, desperate, like she'd been holding back for weeks. When we pulled apart, both breathing hard, she whispered, "Come inside." I followed her upstairs. Not to my room, to hers. That night, I crossed every line. We both did. Afterward, lying in her bed, she cried, "What's wrong?" I asked. "This is so complicated," she said. "More complicated than you know." "Then tell me." She was quiet for a long moment. "Then, my husband's name is David. He's been on a business trip for the past 2 months. He comes home next week." The words hit like ice water. "Your husband." "Yes." I sat up, looking at her. "You're married." "Technically, yes. But Josh, you have to understand, our marriage has been dead for years. He travels 10 months out of the year. We're strangers who share a house. I was alone long before you moved in. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd leave, and I couldn't bear that. These past 2 months with you, they're the first time I've felt alive in a decade. Does he know about me? That I'm renting here?" "He knows I have a tenant, that's all." I stood up, grabbing my clothes. This is insane. I'm sleeping with someone's wife. A wife he hasn't touched in 3 years. A wife he barely speaks to. That doesn't make this okay. She sat up, pulling the sheet around her. I know it's not okay. But Josh, what do you want me to do? Divorce him? I can't afford this house without his income. I have nothing of my own. Then you should have told me before we crossed this line. Would you have stayed if I had? I didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. I would have left, and she would have gone back to being alone. He'll be here next Friday, she said quietly. Gone again by Monday. Just avoid him, stay in your room. It'll be fine. This is crazy. Maybe, but I need you to stay, please. And despite every instinct telling me to pack my bags and leave, I stayed. Because I was 25 and she made me feel important. Because the sex was incredible. Because I convinced myself her marriage didn't count if her husband was never there. David came home the following Friday. I was in my room when I heard the front door open, heard his voice calling for Marlene. Deep voice. Tired. He sounded like someone who'd been traveling for weeks. I stayed upstairs, door locked, barely breathing. That weekend was torture. Hearing them move around downstairs. Hearing his voice, her voice, trying to sound normal. Knowing what we'd done in this house while he was gone. Monday morning, he left. I heard the car pull away. 10 minutes later, Marlene knocked on my door. He's gone, she said. Coast is clear, she said it like a joke, but it felt sick. That night, we were back on the porch. Back to reading. Back to pretending this was normal. But it wasn't normal, it was an affair. For 3 more months, we lived this double life. David would come home every 4 to 6 weeks, stay a weekend, leave again. I'd hide upstairs like a teenager. Marlene would play the dutiful wife. Then, the moment David's car disappeared, we'd be together again. The sex was intense, fueled by guilt and secrecy. Marlene would cry afterward sometimes, saying she was a terrible person. I'd hold her and tell her it wasn't her fault, that her marriage was already broken. We were both lying to ourselves. Then I got the email that changed everything. A Portland architecture firm offered me a junior designer position. Good pay, benefits, a real career move. It meant leaving Seattle, leaving this house, leaving Marlene. I sat at my desk, staring at the offer. Part of me wanted to take its stability, a future. But another part couldn't imagine leaving her. I didn't tell her right away, but the decision hung over me. Finally, the night before I had to respond, I told her on the porch. Marlene, I got a job offer, in Portland. It's a good one. She didn't look at me. Her fingers tightened around her mug. Congratulations. You deserve it. It means I'd have to move, I figured. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Houses like this, they're not meant to keep people forever. This place is more than a house to me. You're more than a landlord, she turned to me, eyes glassy. You made this house feel alive again. But Josh, you're young. You've got a life to build. Don't stay here because it's safe. I'm not staying because it's safe. I'm staying because of you. She stood, her sweater slipping off one shoulder. Don't make this harder than it already is. Take the job. Leave before David figures out what we've been doing. But I didn't leave, not yet. 2 weeks later, I was still there. Still reading to her, still sleeping with her. Still hiding when David came home. Until the day David came home early. He wasn't supposed to be back until Friday. But his meeting got canceled and he drove home Wednesday afternoon. I was in Marlene's bedroom. In their bed, at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, we heard the garage door. Marlene's face went white. Oh my God, he's not supposed to be here. What do I do? Spare bedroom, now. Don't make a sound. I grabbed my clothes and ran to the spare room across the hall, closing the door quietly. Through the walls, I heard David's voice. Marlene, you home? Yeah, just resting. What are you doing here? Meeting got canceled. Figured I'd surprise you. I heard footsteps, heard him walking upstairs. Heard him go into their bedroom. Then silence. Then, whose sketchbook is this? My blood ran cold. I'd left my sketchbook on the nightstand. The one with drawings of Marlene, including one I'd done last week of her lying in bed, naked, reading. That's just some art Josh was showing me. He draws, Josh, your tenant? Why is his art in our bedroom? Why is there a drawing of a naked woman that looks exactly like you? David, where is he? David's voice was cold. Is he in this house right now? Silence. Is he in this house, Marlene? David, please, I heard footsteps, coming toward the spare bedroom. The door flew open. David stood there, tall, mid-40s, business suit, looking at me with pure rage. "You're fucking my wife." It wasn't a question. "David, how long?" I couldn't speak. "How long have you been fucking my wife in my house?" Marlene appeared behind him, crying. "David, please. 4 months? 5, the entire time he's been here? It's not like that. Then what's it like, Marlene? Explain to me how there rests a naked drawing of you in our bed and your tenant in the spare room in the middle of the day. You're never here. You're gone 10 months a year. I've been alone for 3 years. So you start fucking the tenant? A 25-year-old kid? He sees me, he talks to me, he treats me like I exist. I work to pay for this house, to pay for your life. I don't want your money. I want a husband who's actually here." They screamed at each other for what felt like hours. I stood there, frozen, unable to leave, unable to speak. Finally, David turned to me. "Pack your shit, you're out." "Today, David," Marlene started. "And you," he said to her. "I want a divorce. You can have the house. I don't ever want to see it again." He walked out, drove away, never came back. I packed that afternoon. Marlene sat on my bed, crying. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I ruined everything." "We both did," she whispered. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. David pays the mortgage. Without him, I'll lose this place in 6 months. I can help. You can't. You're 25 with a new job. You can't afford to support a 43-year-old woman and her house." "So that's it, we just end?" She looked at me with sad eyes. "It was always going to end, Josh. I just wanted to pretend a little longer. I left that evening. Took the Portland job. Started a new life." Marlene filed for divorce. David didn't contest it, just wanted it over. She lost the house 6 months later when she couldn't make the mortgage payments. Last I heard, she's renting an apartment, working 2 jobs. I think about her sometimes. About the porch, the grapevines, the nightly poetry readings. But mostly I think about how I destroyed a 20-year marriage because a lonely woman asked me to read to her. How I became the affair partner, the homewrecker, the guy who slept with his landlord's wife while the landlord was paying the mortgage. I was so desperate to feel important, to feel seen, that I ignored every red flag. The fact that she never mentioned a husband, that she'd disappear on weekends, that someone was clearly paying for this house she supposedly couldn't afford. I wanted to believe I was saving her from loneliness. But really, I was just helping her cheat. Being seen doesn't justify adultery, and reading poetry doesn't make an affair noble. I learned that too late. So what do you think? Was Josh wrong for continuing the affair after finding out Marlene was married? Or was Marlene's marriage so dead it doesn't count? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and tell me. Number 1, should Josh have left the moment he learned about David? Number 2, was David at fault for being an absent husband? Number 3, does a dead marriage justify an affair? And number 4, have you ever been the other man or other woman? This is a safe space. Share your truth. If this story affected you, watch these next. My landlord seduced me while her husband paid the bills. Similar tenant affair. The lonely wife who destroyed my life. Another absent husband story. I read poetry to a married woman. The affair that started with words. Check the description or click the videos now. If you made it to the end, you understand that emotional affairs become physical affairs. That tenant-landlord relationships have power dynamics. That poetry and intimacy aren't excuses for adultery. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We post 3 times a week with true confession stories about affairs and betrayal. And smash that like button if you want more honest stories about the mistakes we make when we confuse loneliness with love. Thank you for watching this Ryan's Revelations exclusive. This was a true story about landlords who read poetry, tenants who cross lines, and husbands who come home early. Remember, being someone's escape doesn't mean you're not complicit in their betrayal. And emotional intimacy with someone's spouse is still an affair, even if it starts with books and grapevines. Until next time, this is Ryan's Revelations, bringing you the truth about love, lies, and the affairs that destroy everything. Stay strong, stay honest, and never rent a room from a married woman who asks you to read to her every night.